we're talking about something straight out of a nightmare today. Imagine a fire in the sky so intense that it ends with a toxic poison raining down on millions of people. Well, it happened. This is the story of Tehran's black rain. And this is what it actually felt like for the people on the ground. This isn't just some far-off environmental event. It's a painful physical attack. This one quote from a resident in Tehran, it just cuts right to the heart of it, doesn't it? It captures that immediate, very human cost of a sky turning against you. So how did this all happen? Well, back in early March of 2026, a series of airstrikes hit more than 30 oil facilities in and around Iran's capital. What came next was an environmental catastrophe that people could literally see, feel, and breathe. People on the ground described it as an apocalyptic hellscape. You have to picture it. Massive, towering fireballs lighting up the entire night sky. But by the next morning, those fires had been replaced by this thick, suffocating cloud of black smoke that just swallowed the city, blocking out the sun and casting this dark, eerie shadow over 10 million people. And then it started to rain. But this was no ordinary rain, not even close. It was this dark, oily sludge falling from the sky. It coated everything, cars, buildings, people, in this greasy black film. It was like the air itself had become toxic. Okay, so let's get into it. What is this black rain, really? I mean, it sounds like something from science fiction, but it's actually a terrifying and, unfortunately, very explainable chemical process. At its core, black rain is basically just rain that's been super contaminated. You see, when huge amounts of fuel, like crude oil, burn out of control, they release this thick soup of pollutants up into the atmosphere. That toxic mess gets absorbed by the moisture in the clouds, and, well, what comes down isn't just water anymore. And this breaks down the process perfectly. It's really a four-step journey from a fire on the ground to fallout from the sky. First, the oil depots burn like crazy. Second, all that soot and a cocktail of chemicals rises up. Third, those pollutants mix with the water just hanging out in the clouds. And finally, that toxic, acidic brew falls right back down on everyone as black rain. And when we say toxic cocktail, we are not kidding. The oil that was burning is known as sour crude, which means it's high in sulfur. So when it burns, you get huge amounts of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. Those are the main ingredients for acid rain. But then you add in black carbon soot and a whole bunch of other nasty stuff, including benzene, which we know for a fact causes cancer. I love this analogy from scientist Akshay Dioris because it really explains why this rain was so incredibly toxic. He said the raindrops acted like little sponges or magnets. So they didn't just pick up pollution in the clouds, they actually kept grabbing more toxins from the air the entire way down, getting more and more potent. And the result? This rain was unbelievably acidic. Measurements showed its pH got as low as 4.0. To put that into perspective for you, that's roughly the same acidity as vinegar. Just try to imagine vinegar falling from the sky on an entire city. So, let's get to the crucial part. What does it actually do to people when you bathe a city of millions in acidic, chemical-laced rain? The impact was immediate, and the long-term consequences, well, they're terrifying. You can really split the health risks into two buckets. You've got the immediate effects, the stuff people felt right away, like that burning skin we heard about, trouble breathing, and seriously irritated eyes and throats. But then there's the much more sinister danger, the long-term risks. Years, even decades from now, this one event could cause higher rates of cancer, heart disease, and all sorts of chronic illnesses for the people who are exposed. And the numbers, they're just staggering. In only the first 10 days after the strikes, health officials in Iran said that over 200,000 people had to get emergency care for breathing and heart problems. That is a massive public health crisis, practically overnight. And look, while this toxic air is dangerous for everybody, for some people it's just catastrophic. We're talking about children whose lungs are still developing, the elderly, pregnant women, and of course, anyone who already has a condition like asthma. For them, the risk of severe, lasting damage is so much higher. So you might be asking yourself, why was this so uniquely devastating for Tehran? Well, the answer is kind of crazy. The city's own geography turned a disaster into an absolute catastrophe. It's basically caught in a natural trap. So first, you have to understand where the city is located. Tehran is built on a slope right at the foot of the enormous Alborz mountain range. These mountains pretty much form a giant bowl around the city, which really limits air circulation and stops pollution from just blowing away. Okay, now add a second piece to the puzzle. A common weather event there called a temperature inversion. All this means that a layer of warm air gets stuck on top of the cooler air down by the ground. And that warm air acts like an invisible lid, sealing the mountain bowl completely shut.
And here's the devastating results of that combination. You've got the mountains forming a bowl and the temperature inversion acting as a lid. All that toxic smoke from the burning oil fields had absolutely nowhere to go. It was trapped and just got more and more concentrated right over a city of 10 million people, forcing them to breathe their own poison.
And here's the thing. Even after the fires go out and the smoke clears, this problem isn't over. Not by a long shot. The fallout from this black rain is going to leave a poisoned legacy, scarring the environment for decades, maybe even longer. The damage just cascades through the whole ecosystem. The acidic rain strips the soil of nutrients, making it toxic for crops. That same toxic runoff gets into rivers and groundwater, and then it gets into the food chain. And get this, the impact is global. Atmospheric models show that the soot from these fires travels thousands of kilometers, eventually landing on glaciers in Siberia, where it absorbs more sunlight and makes them melt faster. You know, we have seen environmental devastation like this before. The 1991 Kuwaiti oil fires are a really grim parallel. Over 700 oil wells burned for 10 months straight. That event left behind a hard asphalt-like layer called tarcrete, and even caused black snow to fall in the Himalayas. Now, the Tehran event was shorter for sure, but because it was concentrated right over a massive city, it created a much more intense and immediate crisis for human health.
All of this leaves us with one final, pretty chilling question. The fires can be put out and the smoke will eventually clear, but the poison stays. It's in the soil, it's in the water, and it's in people's bodies. It's just a stark reminder that the invisible wounds of conflict, the ones that are etched into the environment itself, might just be the ones that take the longest to heal.